Amanda here from createyourfuture.co. So today we have a special guest showing up, joining us today, Amy Westmoreland from Illuminating Joy.
Hi.
You guys asked for it. We're doing it. A collaboration. So Amy's here to talk about mental diets today. Thank you so much, Amy, for being here. Jerry says hi.
Hi, Jerry.
He's like, hello.
I would like to say I'm very excited to meet you, Amanda, but I'm very excited to meet Jerry. Jerry is
right? He's like, hello.
fantastic. He's fantastic. I love him. But I love you as well. Your videos are awesome, and thank you for having me on your channel. And yeah, so I can talk about mental diets, which is something that you obviously are really good with as well.
Thank you. Yes, we're excited to have you. Everybody was asking for it, so now we're doing it. So, and thank you so much for the shout out on your channel and the wonderful things that you said about me and Jerry. We so appreciate it. So, yes, we're excited. I'm actually really nervous to meet you because you're like this. I was like, wow. I was like, Amy shouted about me out. I was like, that's amazing. So, and I have to confess that I intended it. So, and
yeah, I kind of figured because, I suddenly saw your videos and I was like, I have to have a conversation with this woman. I have to do a collaboration with her. She knows what she's talking about. She's amazing. My viewers have to know who she is. They have to watch her videos. And yeah, and then I sent you that message and you're like, oh, I totally intended for that. Not from me personally, but from someone, right?
Yeah, so the part 2, we are going to talk, it's a 2-part series. We are going to talk about everyone as you pushed out on the second video, which will be on Amy's channel. So let's dive right into the mental diet. So, Amy, what is a mental diet?
Well, I'm glad you asked because one of my favorite things in the world, and I've talked about this on my channel, is use the dictionary when you're learning about manifesting and how to do this. Looking up a definition can be really helpful, right? Instead of just trying to remember what the definition is. So I looked at the definition for the word diet, and it's a special course of food to which one restricts oneself to lose weight or accomplish a specific goal. So a mental diet is a special course of thoughts to which one restricts oneself to accomplish a certain goal, like in manifesting.
I love it. And you know what? I love the fact that you look in the dictionary to look up words because I do the exact same thing. Like, I have to know what it means before I use it. It's like this crazy thing. I actually have a paper dictionary around here in my desk because I just need to know, especially if I'm on the phone and using words. That is awesome. So how do you do a mental diet? Because you're very successful.
Yeah. So the mental diet, I first put it into practice with my money, and I did it a few different times. But basically, how you would do any sort of change in habit. So the example I like to use, there's 2 of them, is if you decided to get into shape, you would make a plan to go to the gym. You would make a plan to restrict certain activities, maybe stop being a couch potato and maybe get out and move more. You basically come up with a plan in advance, and then you adhere and stick to the plan until you accomplish your goal. So a mental diet is the exact same thing. You focus on what it is you want to change. That's knowing what you want. And then you come up with a plan in advance of what you're going to focus on. And this is so important, what you're going to stop focusing on in your thoughts. Because people, you don't just go to the gym and then continue to consume the same amount of calories or continue to have your bad habits. It makes it very difficult. Like, you have to give up, because it says a special course of thoughts to which you restrict oneself, which means you give some up and then you add new ones in.
Right. So what you're saying is we avoid thinking about the things that we don't want, and in those moments we stop ourselves and we bring it back to what we actually want to focus on. And so if it's like, for instance, like if say, I'm worried about what people are going to think about me, instead of worrying and thinking, what are they going to think about me? That's like obviously eating a cheeseburger. It's to bring it back to the salad, which is going to be, I intend for people to think I'm amazing and wonderful, right?
Yeah. And
awesome.
And the interesting thing is, so I think a lot of times with people want to become aware. It took me a long time to become aware of like this chatter in our head, in our minds, is constantly on. I think Neville Goddard says it's like it's always there, and you can direct it. You can absolutely direct it in the way that you want. And if you have left it to run wild your whole life, it takes a little bit of time to turn it around at first. But again, just like you would get into shape, or just like you would create any other habit of success, if you commit to it and you are repetitive and you're persistent with it, it will actually shift and become much easier for you. But you can use it for any topic. And in fact, I recommend using it for all topics, because the mental diet is what you carry around with you all day in your consciousness. And if you're doing visualization or other like things that you like for manifesting and you're not seeing results, it's very likely that your mental diet does not support what you're doing in your imagination.
Ah, yes, because everything in our outer world is results of what our inner world is, meaning what our thoughts that we're holding as everything that produces in our reality. So,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest question. The biggest question is it's always so difficult to start a mental diet.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the times we'll get started and after a couple days, things just fall apart. So I've kind of got a two-part question. I mean, are the results instant? And I mean, is it always going to be that much work like it is in the first couple days? Because it's just bombarded. There's just so many doubts, limiting beliefs, and negative thoughts. Like, does it ever get easier?
Yeah, so I attribute it to like cleaning out your junk room. So most people at some point in their life have a junk room somewhere, and it's just you have slowly put stuff in there and sort of left it. And so when you first go in there with the intention to clean it out, it seems a little daunting at first because you're facing everything at once. So when you first start your mental diet, these thoughts all come up just like you walked into the junk room and you're like, oh, I have not really looked at this in a while. Forgot about that. Ooh, I forgot about that. Like, so you have that initial shock when you put this into action. So if you will treat it like changing any habit or cleaning out a junk room or doing something and you realize it's temporary of the heavy lifting, it's temporary of tackling it at first. It gets easier as you move forward. And then you start to see progress after you started cleaning out and decluttering and you know what you're doing with your thoughts and you know what you're doing with your junk room. Then what ends up happening is eventually you get it the way you want it to. This varies from person to person depending on how much junk is in your room, how much, how many thoughts you have to sort of address, and how committed you are to doing it. And once you get it the way that you want it, once you get your mental diet the way that you want it on a topic, then it's very easy and automatic to maintain it because it's easier. It's like a clean room that you've cleaned out and you have decorated it the way that you want. And you just go in there and you do very light maintenance, like dusting it or tidying it up. But you have this sense of like peace of mind and freedom when you walk in it because all that stuff is gone and you have gotten it the way that you want it.
That's interesting that you relate it to like a junk room because, and I love it because, it's so true because that's how we start to get partial manifestations, right? So as we're working on the mental diet, say we start in the closet, now all of a sudden the closet becomes clean. So let's say one of the things that I'm changing is that, I do really good interviews and I always get every job that I go for. I may do really good interviews and they may say you're really good at interviews, but I may not get the job because that part of it hasn't really been cleaned yet. And that's when we'll see partial manifestations of, let's say, for instance, are, somebody like calling us every day, but they're not quite ready to ask us out because we haven't quite dealt with that part of the junk drawer yet. I love it. That's a really good way to describe it. So it does get easier. So what sort of things have you accomplished with the mental diet?
So, under the umbrella of money, I did 3 different deliberate mental diets at different times in this particular order. The first one was the mental diet of being able to manifest a lump sum of money, and then being debt free, and then being able to bring in a lot of money. I did them differently at different times, very successfully with all 3 of them. And so basically that was like cleaning up different areas of my money thoughts. And the first one I did, which there's actually a video of me, it's not on my channel, where I was interviewed about winning a jackpot on a slot machine. I had wanted to prove I could manifest $1,000 out of nowhere. And so I did the mental diet just for that. It was very specific, and it took a few months. And then I ended up going on a girls' trip, not thinking about winning it on a slot machine. Like, that really hadn't crossed my mind. We go on a girls' trip. We go to this Indian casino, and I just see this machine. I walk over to it. It was the first one we looked at. I put my money in. On the 5th spin, I won $1,000 on the machine. So, yeah. But I had the mental diet. Like, I worked on that very specifically. Like, you know, money can come to me. I can manifest a lump sum of money. I can, you know, this $1,000 can come to me from all these different places. I don't need to know how. I worked on that, telling myself a particular story and then dropping all of the negative thoughts and doubts out of it as best as I could for a few months until it manifested.
That is amazing.
Yes.
And you are a super awesome manifester, like crazy. It's so cool. And I love it that you use intentions. That's so awesome. Well, Jerry says that's all the time that we have for today, and he needs to stick on a mental diet about being a good teddy bear. But guess what? He's me pushed out, and that's what we're going to talk about in part 2. And so definitely check out part 2. That'll be on Amy's channel. And I'd like to thank everybody for liking, commenting, subscribing. I'm actually going to put Amy's details in the description of this video. And yeah, definitely go subscribe to her. She's absolutely amazing. Great videos, great content there. And, you know, I really do love it. So I think that everyone will really benefit from going over and checking out her channel. And yes, thank you so much, Amy, for being on my channel. I'm so
Thank you for
excited.
having me.
You're welcome. It's like having a superstar. We're just like, oh my goodness, right?
Oh my God. So sweet. No, but you're the one. I was just like, as soon as I saw your channel, I was like, everyone has to know about Amanda's channel.
Thank you so much. You know, I just love it that somebody else does mental diets as much as I do, because I'm all like Mrs. Mental Diet. I tell you, I'm like, I'm on it, you know?
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you guys all for watching, subscribing, and sharing these videos. And we'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye.
Bye.